Hello and welcome back, Native Tongues fans. Your host, Aaron Palmer here, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, Ken Hall. Please take a second to hit follow and rate and review us on Apple Podcasts to help us grow. This week on the pod, we've got a writer and director who effectively pulled the rug out from under us and scared the pants off a whole generation. While he didn't set out to work in horror, he ended up creating the Blair Witch Project, which became one of the most memorable and profitable films of all time and kicked off an entire genre of found footage movies. Since then, he has worked in a number of other indie features and gotten a lot of work in TV. You've seen his work in Lucifer, Taken, Supernatural, Next, Yellow Jackets, American Horror Stories, and many others. He brought a lot of fun stories to us and some behind-the-scenes knowledge. Let's welcome Eduardo Sanchez.
Sometimes the film job gets in the way of just stupid shit around the house, and it's just crazy. But I mean, right now it's like there's no work. It's kind of scary out here. I mean, I have a job in a couple of weeks, and then that's it. So
really,
we'll see what happens.
Is it still residual from like the strike stuff? Like there's just not enough content out?
Yeah, it was the strike, and then I think the strike kind of made all the companies that were losing money like realize that they were losing money.
Yeah,
fools.
And and everybody just kind of put the brakes on stuff, and it just hasn't. And then the strike, after the strike, everybody's like, oh, everything's going to go crazy, but they haven't really gone crazy with with productions. I mean, there's still there's work out there, but not as much. And then there's also a looming, there's a contract negotiation going on right now with the Teamsters and IATSE. So
another one.
Yeah, another one. So they could go on strike like in June,
God.
I guess, or something. So, and I think if we strike then, I mean, we have to strike. If they strike, I think the business is going to be
crazy
demolished. Like somebody's going to have to build it up from the ground up. But I mean,
Oh,
I think the advantage is that there's still a hunger for content, and I think I've been producing these like really low budget movies. It gives our movies a chance to like kind of get at least to the next level of attention.
Sure.
And also in theatrical, like I feel like the movies stay in the theaters a lot longer now. You know what I mean? There's not as much competition. So
yeah, I don't know. I feel like if I miss a movie the first week, then I've got probably like a week and a half before it's streaming.
I mean, it definitely streaming, but if you look at like how long some of these movies are in the theaters now, it's like kind of like when I was a kid, man, when the movies would be in theaters for 3 months at least. Even if they sucked, they were in theaters for 2 months.
Right.
Okay. I love your background setup, by the way.
I know. Dude. I'm trying to pick apart
a lot of toys,
like a Where's Waldo kind of thing.
A lot of crap, man. And this is just my office. I have the whole basement full of. Don't get me started.
For both of our listeners, Ed's background is filled with like Star Wars memorabilia and toys, and it looks like shelves upon shelves, and there are AT-ATs upon AT-ATs.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
It's cool.
Yeah, I like it. So it's not for lack of content out there. It's just for everyone's hesitation to move forward and invest in projects.
Yeah, and I think a lot of stuff is moving overseas, which is kind of scary. So I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on, man. I mean, I will see what happens after this strike, this contract negotiation is over.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's the stumbling block that we're trying to get over, the hurdle, but we'll see.
I feel like I'm not in any union, but I feel like I joined the wrong union where you can't go and strike like twice in a year. It's like, when's our strike coming up?
No, it's crazy, dude. I know a lot of people obviously in film, and a lot of people have had to, like sold their houses and gotten a second mortgage, and a lot of people have gotten out of the business. Honestly, I belong to this Facebook group called Crew Stories, and it's like I'm assuming mostly crew members and stuff, and it's thousands of people, but they air their laundry a lot, and a lot of people are like, "I'm done, dude. I'm already near retirement age. I'm gonna be done right now, and get out while I can. It's gonna be it's tough." So
yeah.
Huh. Well, what's your schedule normally like? Like, how often are you working? How often are you?
I usually do like between 4 and 5, 6 sometimes if I'm really busy, shows a year.
Mhm.
So,
Are
and
they coming to you, or are you reaching out to them?
no, I mean, it's I'm not doing anything. My agents and my manager get me jobs, but now I've been doing it for so long that I get a lot of repeat customers, I guess,
Yeah.
a lot of repeat employers.
Do
So
you like that part, like being a hired gun to come in and shoot something that's
yes, yeah,
yeah,
I like it.
not
I
yours?
like it a lot. I like television a lot. It's basically a month, month and a half, and you're done forever with it, and then you keep getting money for it forever.
It's not a bad gig.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
nice.
no, it's good. And also it's like very collaborative, and I feel like I can do good work, but it's not like super completely reliant on me.
Hmm.
But just the money compared to indie films and the time,
Yeah.
like just the demands. I mean, you're doing an indie movie. Your indie movie is at least 3 years, maybe 4 years. You're going to be, tied
Wow.
to the producers and
Mhm.
figuring out the money and this.
That's all on you too. Like
Yeah, no,
it's
and
just you. The pressure's on
as
you
a
to do
yeah,
everything.
as a director, you're kind of like responsible for the whole thing, and so I like television. And also just I learn every day, and I've never directed this much in my life, so you get your chops. So it's not a bad gig for sure.
Yeah.
Was that a growth thing for you? Like, so did you, when you first started doing TV, were you as like, yeah, this is great? Or were you like, wait a second, this kind of fits?
Well, it fits the indie world because, like, you're always in a hurry.
Mhm.
And you don't have any money, and TV is the same way. Like, you're just constantly crunching and like moving from one set to the next, and there's very few shows that like have luxurious, I call them, schedules. Most of the time, you're going, 12 hours at least, and you're pushing, and you're like, oh, you're looking at your call sheet and going, man, how the hell am I going to make this day? So the pace from indie to TV is very similar, so that wasn't a big deal for me.
Hmm.
So I fit right in, man. I really did fit right in, and then I can get along with just about anybody. To me, it's like I realized that the television is the showrunner's show. I go in there and I give suggestions, and I can, if they want me to do some stuff, I can kind of create stuff, whatever. But by the time I get there, the DP's chosen, the main cast is chosen, the scripts are already, written.
Right.
So, you're limited as to what you can do. And also, you can't like go in there and reinvent the show.
Right. 6 other directors before
You
you've come in and
could.
given notes already.
Yeah. Well, and also like, the show has a certain style. Like when I got into Supernatural, it's 10th year, and I'm like, they've been doing fine without me. I was intimidated early in my TV directing career, but the crews are really cool, and usually the showrunners and the producers and the production designers, the people that are kind of with you during
Uh-huh.
prep, they're all mostly always cool, and it's like a family. You go into this family, and if you're cool and respectful, they respect you back, mostly, and
Sure.
you just do your job and don't waste their time. I think that's the biggest thing, is that just be prepared, be ready for like surprises, but know what you're going to do in the day,
Yeah.
while you're shooting.
What's the percentage of that? I mean, you seem like a pretty grounded, normal person. So
Yeah,
I think you could go
look at
into a
my
set
back,
and
look at my background. Yeah, the room I'm in. Yeah, I'm grounded. What
yeah.
was the question? What are you saying?
I mean, how often are people coming in and working with crews that are just disruptive, toxic, difficult?
I think the TV, there's always somebody like everything is cool, or that somebody's like, somebody mentions like, oh my God, it's cool to have you because, the last director was this or this and that. Or
Mhm.
sometimes there's a director that's coming back, and, somebody doesn't like them. But it happens a lot, man. I mean, like I've gone into shows, and, I can't really name what shows, but like I've gone shows, and the whole crew is, or especially the actors, are just in a sour mood because, and then I'm like, what's going on? It's like, well, they just brought back another director that they didn't like, and
Mm.
they didn't like the first time, and because it's sometimes it's personality, and sometimes directors kind of want to do their own thing. I think they feel like they should be, I don't know, respected
Have
more or have more
more
say, and
say.
it's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
and it's bad. And I went into one show, and the showrunner was like, it was the first time he had done a show, and he just felt like he just looked like he had just been beat up, man. and I, from the other people I heard from, they're like, oh, he's a great showrunner, but the director that came in before earlier in the season just really kind of did his own thing and didn't really listen to him. So it's, and to me, it's like, man, it's it's their show. Like, how dare you, like, try to reinvent, I mean, unless you're doing the pilot and you're doing, like, you're involved with the creators about, like, what kind of style you want and, how do they want the show to look and feel. So I usually, I gravitate towards, like, the showrunner that has, like, the most creativity at stake, like the person that's been with the show longest, or the person that originally wrote the show idea, because there's always usually, like, when somebody it's the first time that they've done a show, they usually bring somebody else that's has more experience, and usually it works really well. They usually bring people in that kind of can get along. So but to me, it's like, I mostly I try to listen to the person that has had the original vision for the show, and I try to, like, deliver that episode, that kind of television show to them.
Sure.
So, it's good. I've been blessed to to get into this career after the indie film scene started drying up.
Right.
And so, and I love it, and I hope to continue to do it for a while.
Yeah, that's great.
I was just gonna say, it's weird because you're dropping into, like, the people that are doing the show have been doing it and have been doing it together. So it's like you're kind of dropping in like the uncle into a family setting, and it's like you don't know what happened last weekend. You don't know. It's like now you got to deal with all that stuff, and then you're like, all right, well, I'm out. I'll see you.
Yeah, you got to be kind of light on your feet, and you have to, and that's the main thing you do early on is you gauge what's going on in the production. Like even now, like, I'm doing my accommodations and just the logistics of travel for this new show that I'm going to do, and and you already get a vibe from people. I'm saying? Sometimes people are really friendly, and sometimes people are, like, really business, and I'm like, okay, what's going on or whatever. But you don't really know till you get there. Again, like the TV crew, and then also the people that, like, produce the shows that are, like, there, day in, day out. It's like, it's a hard job, man. And I think you got to have have so much respect for these people, because I don't know how long I could do it. Like I go in and work, about a month, and then I'm by the time I'm done, I'm like, I'm going to go into a coma if I don't, I got to go rest. And these people start on the next episode the very next day. When I leave, I'm on my way home, they're shooting again,
Yeah.
So there's a certain kind of, like, I guess, I've never been in the military, but I guess it has that kind of, like, cohesion of just, like, we're in this war together and we're going to fight. So there's a lot of that, because, again, it's like the business is so rough. It's, 12-hour days, 14-hour days, sometimes 16-hour days at times.
Is that necessary?
I mean, it's necessary for the studios to save money. It's not necessary for, like, the creative. It isn't. I mean, sometimes it is based, on an actor's availability. Like, if an actor is really hot, then, or the schedule is filled, you're like, oh, we only have 2 weeks with them, we gotta shoot 16-hour days. During COVID, I did a show called Queen of the South, and that it was a 10-hour day. That was the limit, because for all the testing and all the logistics of, like, making everything safe. And it was the best season of television that, like, at least production wise, that I experienced. And also I think it was probably the best season of the show too. And it's 10 hours. I mean, most people work 8 hours,
it's a long day.
They get home tired. 10 hours is already a really long day, but it's just great when people are coming back and going, man, I actually got to see my kids, and I actually did this, and I, hung out with my wife, and, I have
find some kind of balance.
Time. Yeah. And then also the actors have more time to, like, just memorize their lines, and, like, there wasn't as much stress. And that was a show that, like, was nonstop. It was, it's an action show about the cartel, about the drug business. And it's, it's low budget. It was a low budget show. Like, they didn't really, so you had to be kind of moving so quickly. But the 10-hour days was a luxury. It was like, oh my God, the day is almost over. Let's, whatever.
Not often you hear that.
No,
but
more efficient,
tighter. Again, it's just, you have more time to rest. There's definitely a difference, like, between sometimes I do a show at the beginning of the season, and then I come in at the end and do, one of the final episodes, and you can, you see the crew, like, just,
they're worn,
beaten down, man, beaten down. And you get to the, sometimes I just go in for the, final couple episodes or whatever, and, everything's already set. Like, people are already ready to get the hell out of there, or people are just, reluctant to, leave because it's a family. And, there's always this kind of bittersweet feeling of finishing the season. And,
sure,
you don't know if you're going to get picked up most of the time. And so you're probably never going to work with, this exact crew again. But it's great, usually. I mean, sometimes there's a lot of politics going on and stuff, a lot of talking crap behind people's backs, and and it's just funny, like that.
That's kind of what I was picturing.
I come in sometimes and people are like talking to me. I'm like, man, I mean, I don't say anything, and I don't like
feed into it
unless it's like something that's like I've had personal experience with them. I'd be like, yeah, they are a little bit this or whatever. But usually they just kind of, because I'm the outsider, and they're like, he's going to come in and leave, so I can talk crap and stuff. But it helps. I think it helps
stir shit up for one episode.
Then I'm out.
I'm, like I have like a reputation for like being very calming on the set. Yeah. Usually people are like, oh my God, there's such less tension on the set now. And, people usually like working with me. And so I just have kind of a calm demeanor, and I never freak out, unless it's like, something dangerous is going to happen or something.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, that personality.
I never yell, it's like, it's personality. So people, they appreciate
that's not getting the best work out of anyone,
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, sometimes, it is weird because you go in there, you're kind of like a psychologist a little bit, because you have to figure out like what everybody needs, not only the crew, but the main people on the crew, but also like the actors. Sometimes actors don't even want to see you before, sometimes they want to talk a lot about the scene. They want to talk about, this and that. They want a lot of notes. Some actors don't even want to do any notes. So some actors start warming up after 3 or 4 takes. Some people are like 2 takes, and it's like, why do you need a third one? Like they're giving you the evil eye.
Right.
But I work fast, and I usually my average is probably 2-3 takes at the most. And again, like you're working with professionals. People know their lines, they know how to hit their marks. Once you work out the blocking, it's automatic. It's just, there's a level of professionalism that you learn to appreciate. I did an episode a short called, El Vampiro, that was in Satanic Hispanics, this anthology that came out last year.
Saw that.
Yeah, and it's the first time I've done, like an indie. I haven't done that in a while, where, it's mostly just been television. You realize that, man, there's some stuff missing here. There's some stuff that I'm like having to, pick up the slack on a lot of these departments. And, because you're making a movie for nothing.
Yep.
Yeah.
You get pampered, compared to
you have to hold a light stand. Could you hold this light stand?
Because everybody's, you talk to the production designer, you talk to them about something, chances are it's going to happen. In indie, it's like, well, they didn't do it. All right, well, I guess they did, whatever it is,
We'll work around that.
Yeah, but it's cool. I like both. Like now, because of just all the television I'm doing, I'm kind of becoming a little bit more hireable for features. So I've been getting a lot of feature, like just interests. People send me scripts, and I have a script now that we're going out to actors, and so hopefully I'm going to do my first feature in like 10 years soon. Oh, wow. But I'm on like
studio or indie.
No, it's indie. It's indie. I mean, it's indie. I mean, but I have talked to studios, and people send me scripts, and I've been to meetings and stuff like that. Because I think people realize, they're like, all right, well, they can handle a television crew, and the size of it is,
you can steer the ship.
Yeah, I can steer the big ship, what I'm saying? And it's like, all right, you can do that. And it's all about confidence in what you can do. And I understand. It's like the business is so nebulous, you know what I mean? Like, nobody knows what's going to hit, you know what I mean? It's just kind of like you're just rolling the dice every time. I mean, we all know that you get the best director, you get the best writer, you get the best actors, and you still come out with a crappy film. It's there is like a magic to be had on sets and stuff. And sometimes you don't understand why movies are better than others or whatever. It's like, it just came together. Same thing with the episode of television. You're like, I didn't really do anything different. It's just something magical, or something that we couldn't, that you couldn't see happening was happening. So, it's very hard to say, oh, this movie is going to be a hit. Well, yeah, you can, maybe you can kind of guess it's going to be a hit, but, you can't. So I think that the more confidence you give them as far as, just your background and your track record, the executives are
capable.
are capable, and they and the executives, unfortunately, man, it's like all based on just keeping your jobs. It's pretty sad. I mean, there are some great executives out there, and they give great notes, and there are people who like really know how to steer. You can tell like some of the networks that do better than others that somebody's doing managing it properly or in some way. But usually it's just like these people, you have these executives and they're checking off boxes. They're like, how many boxes can I check off? Sure. Because if this thing backfires, they're going to come at me. And, if I don't have enough boxes checked, then they're going to be like, why did you do this? Why did you go on a limb for this filmmaker or this writer or this, whatever, this story?
Right. They want to justify whatever they've done.
Yeah, you got to justify, and it is, you have no idea what's going to hit. So it's it's a precarious situation for them as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
because they're kind of like fortune tellers. You know what I mean? So
right.
Sometimes you're right, and sometimes you're wrong.
I saw you did a very good episode of one of my favorite recent shows, Yellow Jackets.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Man, that's a really fun one. And I actually, stepping back, I can see how you fit in with that, just with the whole, woods and the supernatural element. Plus, when you came in at the end, those girls are supposed to look beat up. So
yeah,
that was probably helpful.
Yeah. And, you go onto these shows, and that one, like I did the last episode of the first season, and I was up for like, I had been talking to them for almost a year, and they were talking to me about maybe doing the pilot and this and that, whatever. Or actually, no, the pilot was already done. So they wanted to bring me in as maybe a producing director. It's like a new position that's come up in the last like probably 5 or 6 years, where it's basically like a director that is also a producer that stays on the show the whole time, right. And they direct a few episodes. They do like the second unit stuff, and you kind of help the other directors if they have problems or whatever. But they went with somebody else, which was fine, and then my schedule didn't work out for any of the other episodes. And then I guess something happened at the end, and they were like, hey, you want to do the final episode? And it's always tricky to do the final episode, especially of season one, because you're like, you gotta land it, you gotta land the plane. Right. But the script was, it helped that the script was really great. And, you're working with these like super actors, these freaking
everyone
amazing actors
really carries their weight.
Yeah. And, really good, kind of vibe on set. And, still it's the end of the season. People are disgruntled and people are whatever, but
they've all been working 16-hour days.
I mean, it's, it's a long season for
you come in fresh and tan. You come in fresh and tan.
I'm like, hey, let's go to the woods. Well, and also like, that show is challenging because it's such an ensemble cast. So you have so many, characters to kind of juggle. And, on ensembles, a lot of people sometimes are like, hey, why aren't you giving me more scenes? And what are you doing on my characters? So, people are like, there's a lot of that. So, but, you go in and, you just try to do your best. And I was blessed with a good script, and the showrunners were very cool. And, but there is this level of panic of like, who are we going to blame? You know what I mean? And a lot of times, like my agent was like, dude, this is a great opportunity, but like, if it goes south, you're going to be one of the guys that they blame. I'm like, well, what are you going to do?
Right.
But luckily it turned out good. And I love the show. I haven't seen the second season yet, but I'm trying to see if they're going to squeeze me into for the third season for an episode. But
exciting.
We'll see what happens, man. They invited me back for second season, but I was booked on something. So
the first season was like lightning in a bottle, but the second season, I've already forgotten a lot of what happens, but I remember really enjoying it.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, it's a fun show, and it's, it's very unique.
It's got kind of like a Lost vibe, right? Like
it has Lost, but it also has, it's like a little comedic. It's got a lot of cool little, unique touches. It has that cannibalism kind of thing that you're like, okay, what is going on there? And what's the secret and this and that? And, and it's led by women, it's like, there's not a lot of shows that are, women centric, which is cool.
Yeah.
So, it's a unique show, and hope they ask me back.
Me too, because then I can watch more of it. So what kind of offers are you getting now? I mean, are you still sticking primarily to horror?
Yeah. As far as like the feature stuff, it's all horror. Like I got sometimes like, actors that I've worked with or, work on something. Like I got offered biography of some boxer and, semi-biographical.
It was also a vampire.
Yeah, it turns into a vampire. No, but it's one of the few things that I've got offered, but I do get offered sometimes because of Queen of the South. I get a lot of like cartel movies sometimes, or like movies about, the drug trade.
Was that your longest TV show? Queen of the South? Was that the most, I think?
Yeah, that's the most episodes I've done of a TV show.
Was that different for you? Like now, so you said you sort of dipped in, but so now that was one where you were along for a bunch of it.
Yeah, I mean, I started in the second season and I stayed till the fifth, and I did the final episode, which was of this show, which was very cool.
Talk about landing a plane.
Yeah. I mean, and it's crazy because, it was only 5. Well, I was only there for 4 seasons, but you're there with the crew, and I did the producing directing on season 4. So I was there for like, the whole, 5 months, 6 months of the season. So, you get to meet, these people, you get to know them. And I know, the actors and also that show, like, was, it was very early in my career. Like I started with, Dusk Till Dawn. Robert Rodriguez gave me an opportunity to come in and direct an episode of Dusk Till Dawn. And that was crazy. And I didn't know Robert, I don't think we had even met, but, he didn't know me. I'm not sure what he was thinking.
How did that come about?
Well, he called me up one day and he was like, "Hey, I'm doing this El Rey network, and I want it to be all, a lot of Latinos and and just kind of as many directors and writers." And I was like, "Cool, man." But you hear from people like that all the time, and then it never happens. And then a couple, like 6 months later, they're like, "Hey, they want you to direct one of the episodes of Dusk Till Dawn." I'm like, "All right,
cool."
But it was crazy, man, because like Robert. I don't know how familiar you are with Robert, but he shoots most of the stuff in Austin, in Austin, Texas, where he lives.
Yeah, I love his stuff. I've read all.
Yeah, he has a crew that like mostly works with him because he's so busy. He goes from one thing to the next. And before Dusk Till Dawn, they had worked with him, and they had worked with Quentin Tarantino on Death Proof, and but mostly, it was his crew. It was the Troublemaker Studios crew, and everybody's kind of almost full time there. And so he directs the first 2 episodes of the first season, then, and I come in on the third one. It's the first television show I directed.
Oh wow!
I mean, like,
no pressure,
straight out of the indie world, and also you're like shooting scenes that were in this iconic movie. Like I'm literally like redoing scenes that he directed.
Oh my god! Like in the brothel.
I mean, it was stressful, man. It was, but look, I went in and I think I was competent enough, and he left me alone. The first day, he was like, first part of the day, he was all over, kind of just making sure everything was cool. And he's very hands-on. It's his studio, so he kind of takes over sometimes. And for all the positions, I've seen him take over for a cameraman. I've seen him take over for lighting. Sometimes, especially that first episode, he would start directing. I'm like, well, it's his show, it's his network. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I did a good job, and they asked me back, and I barely saw Robert after that. But it was just weird to be doing, this movie that I love, and it's like a classic movie, and I'm like redoing scenes that like are trying to pay homage, but also just trying to do something new, because you don't want to do you're not going to do a shot by shot remake, but it was cool.
I had a friend who saw that, and I was dating myself here, but I guess we were probably like seventh grade, 8th grade, something like that. He saw that in the theater with his parents, and he's like, the most awkward moment is, he's like, I'm sitting in between my mom and dad while Cheech Marin is standing on the steps of the brothel, shouting out all the different varieties of women. Let's keep it family friendly, but of all the women that they have, just a laundry list, doesn't stop for like, he's like, it's a minute and a half diatribe of that. It's like, oh my God.
No, that's not a movie to see with your parents for sure.
It's a great film though.
Yeah, no, it's so much fun. And then shortly thereafter, I got the job on Queen of the South, and that's really what I developed, like the chops. They kept asking me back, and I did more and more episodes. And
do you look back and see your own growth in that? Like, are you like, man, from where I started here to like where?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Like you see, Queen of the South was kind of a perfect, and Dusk Till Dawn also was kind of perfect, because it was like a lot of run and gun, and especially Dusk Till Dawn had like horror and effects, and it was just kind of like, it reminded me a lot of like making films in college and getting your friends together and just doing whatever, and also just doing crazy things. Like Queen of the South, and especially Dusk Till Dawn, though, it was like there's something crazy that happens on every page.
Yeah.
there's a shootout or a car chase or freaking somebody turns into a vampire or somebody gets their head blown off. Or so it was, and you're you have a very short schedule, but especially those two shows, like the assistant directors and the directors were always like going back to the writers and going, man, you gotta give us some relief here. This is crazy.
I mean, he's not really known as like a meditative writer or director.
No, you gotta, and usually, I mean, that's a good thing. Is like usually if you have a good showrunner and you have, good writers, they help. They're like, yeah, what can we cut out and this and that. So they, on all shows it's that way, because once you get there, the AD is already kind of broken down the schedule, at least like preliminarily, and they're like, oh man, we're 3 days over. I'm like, all right, well, we gotta cut some stuff. That's just the way TV is, and they're really good at like kind of condensing things and
sure,
right,
being nimble and working on the fly.
Yeah, and also really receptive to like, all right, can you change this to day exterior instead of night exterior? Can we do this inside instead of this location? Or, it's just like, kind of, again, like what you do with indie film. It's like, all right, we got one scene at the school, and then do we really need it to be at the school? Can we make it at the other locations that we're using, just to kind of, save time, Yeah. Yeah. And company moves, take usually hours. So you're eating into your day and, but again, like there's this level of professionalism and just like kick-assedness, I guess, that always impresses me. I'm like, I learn something new every day doing TV. You just become a better director, better producer.
So what about on the movie side? You said you were screwing around and making stuff in college. Did you go to film school?
I did. I went to, after high school, I went to television classes television production classes at near my house at this place called Montgomery College. And it was great.
We're in Baltimore, by the way.
Oh, yes.
I grew up in Annapolis. So
MC.
Yeah. MoCo.
Yeah. Harvard on the Pike. And it was great. I mean, I'm like 55. I graduated in 1987, and I was really lucky because they had a television studio. They had just been remodeled.
Of course, they did in Montgomery County.
They had money, and they built a studio with like a couple of VHS editors, and it was just like, what the hell is this? So I took a TV production class, and I was like, from that moment, teacher started talking. I was like, this is it. This is what I'm going to do.
That's awesome.
I was very motivated and very self-motivated. Like, I really inspired by Spike Lee when Do the Right Thing came out. It was like game changer for me. And I read all his journals and like how, he did it. So I got into this like indie mindset of being really driven. So the school was great for me because, I was always there, always doing extra stuff. I shot a feature at MC on VHS. I wrote and directed and edited a feature.
Does it still exist?
Yeah, it's around. I got to put it up on YouTube. It's it's a silly movie, but it's good. I mean, it's got, we spent a lot of time on it, and we definitely for 19-year-old kids, we did a pretty good job.
Wow. Did you actually shoot it on VHS?
We actually shot it on VHS. Really?
Not even like beta or anything.
Well, because it was like, what's the best visual quality? This was before film school, so there was no there's no idea about making it on film. Right, that was just not going to happen. And also, we were like, can we even make a feature? Like, how the hell do you make a feature? Like what kind of system is that?
Right.
And so the school had like I don't know if I guess beta SPs. I don't know what they had, but the cameras were huge, and it's like, I'm not going to go around with that camera.
I can't be burdened with this.
No. I mean, I don't have a full crew. It's just going to be mostly me and a couple guys doing camera and like, a couple people, helping with the boom.
Yeah.
So we just shot it with my VHS camera. And, again, it was like an exercise.
I'm assuming it was a love story.
No, well, there's a little bit of a love story, but no, it's like a thriller, like a goofy, college thriller, stupid shit.
Right.
That's awesome. You should definitely get that up on YouTube, though. That would be cool.
Yeah. I did 2 features before Blair Witch, and people are asking me to put them up, and I'm like, all right, you asked for it.
Did you share them anywhere?
Again, it was just like an exercise, for the school, like to see if they could, help us. And like, I remember it's so funny. The school, because Montgomery College, I mean, they don't have grants, or at least I don't know if they do now, but it's not, the school is not going to give you money to make your movies. You got to pay whatever.
Right.
But we somehow, because of, we all got credit for doing the movie, like real, like class credit. And there's this professor named Don Smith, who was really cool and like kind of a mentor to me. And he was like, hey, we're gonna, because of the school, whatever, you guys, we're gonna give you a little. So they gave us like a 20 pack of VHS tapes. And and they gave us a few lights and whatever, but it was definitely
cool, hey.
I mean they did what they could.
Yeah.
Then I went to film school at University of Central Florida, and that's where I met all the Blair Witch guys and shot a feature on film for the first time.
How heavy were those cameras? Was that, or had
I mean,
it was at that point?
They were bigger. I mean, it was CP16, so they're still kind of like basically known for like for journalism. Most of the newscasts when they still shot on film were shot on CP16 because it had like an audio component to it, so you could actually record like the audio into on the side of the film, little mag track, which is crazy. And it had a little optical sound track that it was creating. So that's why it was a favorite for news gathering. And but it's still a film. It was loud as hell, man. There's the whole time it's just like trying to put things on top of it and put a big mattress cover over the camera operator and
a little hole
with a hole for the lens. And and this we shot it in the summer, so it was hot as hell. And,
oh god.
And luckily my camera operator Neil Fredericks, RIP, unfortunately, wherever he is, he was a trooper, and he was just like no complaints. And the worst was his armpit smelled sometimes. We all stunk, but we would make fun of each other for smelling, but that was about it. Neil never complained about anything. So but yeah,
he's in this cocoon.
I mean, it was a lot of times you're like, dude, this we're in this little room, we got to put something over the camera, and can you put something over you? And
oh my gosh.
But that's again, crazy. It's brutal. Like, and it's fun, man.
That has not seen the light of day.
That did some festivals, and actually we got like we got an offer for distribution, but it was a weird offer. Like I haven't looked at it. I looked at it like later in film school. I found the contract, and I was like, what kind of distribution thing is this? And then
it require personal favors.
It was almost like that. No, it was just like it was a company that wasn't really a distributor. I'm not sure what they were going to do with it, but anyway, we were like, if they're going to try to distribute it, great. But no, it never got distributed. But that was because video was like not supposed to go anywhere. Like that was, can we do this? And then we did it, and we're like, yeah, that was a success. Gabriel's Dream, which was the black and white 16mm movie that I did in film school, that was like supposed to be my She's Gotta Have It, or my El Mariachi, my Clerks. And when it didn't become that, it really did crush me, and it really destroyed me, man. I mean, it was like
how old were you?
I was in my 20s. Like I shot it early 20s, and it took me 4 or 5 years to finish it. And
it was after college.
Yeah, dude, it was just it is what it is. There's actually a great John Waters quote where he says, having a complete failure at the beginning of a filmmaker's career is actually the best thing that could happen to them, because like you learn so much more from your mistakes and your successes.
Yeah, it's not in the public eye.
Yeah, and also it's just like you get better each time, and you grow much more with pain than with reward. You know what I mean? You just because you have to adapt, and you have to learn, because you don't want to do the same thing. But yeah, that Gabriel's Dream basically took me to like the end of my rope, in like 95 or 96, when I called Dan, the Dan Myrick, the guy that I had to come up with the Blair Witch with, and I said, I'm in a dead end job, and I'm like living in my parents' house, and like we got to make this movie. It was called The Woods Movie, and it was like the best idea we had. Like we were like, every time we pitched it, people were like, oh my god, that's so cool. So we were like, let's do it. And Dan was not as desperate as me, but he was at least doing some production work in Orlando, but not making much money. And
were you back in Maryland?
I was back in Maryland. Yeah. I went to UCF film school, and then tried to finish Gabriel's Dream. Actually did a cut on film, which was like cutting the work print, which was ridiculous. And then came back to Maryland, actually came back to MC, to Don Smith, my mentor. And I was like, I need a place to edit this movie. So we transferred everything to video, and I edited the movie on video again for the second time. And then
Wow.
and then that's what we showed around and stuff. And it is what it is, man.
Sure.
But it was a learning experience, man. You get up and you go into the editing room and you sit there and you try to, you're working with, it wasn't non-linear editing, it wasn't computer editing, so you had to it's just so time consuming, and every cut is like, I don't know if you guys have ever experienced tape editing, tape to tape.
Oh yeah,
but
tape to tape,
there's like
reel to reel.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Ken, wasn't that where you started?
That yeah, like VHS, and we edited Gabriel's Dream on U-matic on 3/4 inch or whatever it's called.
Yeah, 3/4 inch. That's I started on 3/4 inch, and it would be like you go to do a cut, and it'd be like, oh, there's a flash frame.
Oh my god, dude! And
like,
it's got to go back 10 seconds, and then start, and you're like, oh god, because there's like they're not frame accurate,
No.
So then once when we shot Blair Witch, and we Dan had an Avid, he had rented an Avid, he was doing work for Planet Hollywood, and that was like, oh my god, it's just so much easier. So much. It makes.
We used to do a show where the path was, it started on 3/4. You did the basic cut on 3/4, and then they brought it into the Avid to then do the finishing and do all the stuff and all that. And then eventually we're like, why are we doing this? We should just go into the Avid.
Yeah, the only problem with the Avid was that it was so expensive. I mean, it's still expensive, but it was just ridiculous. It was the beginning of digital cinema. So
we had jazz drives at one point. Jazz drives, which I'm like, I think they lived for I think they had a 3-week window of relevance.
We were familiar with that. I remember we were editing Blair Witch. We had 16 gigabytes. And we literally we rented 4 gigabyte drives and had this tower that we and we were renting. We were probably paying, I think we were paying $200 or $300 a month for 16 gigs.
Yeah. Now that's like a fraction of what's on your phone.
So, and we were walking around, man, we got 16 gigs, man.
What are we gonna do with all this?
What do we do with all this, man? So, oh my God,
just shoot it. Just shoot everything.
It's crazy.
So you guys connected. I guess you guys gravitated towards each other, you and Dan.
Yeah, we did. We were in the inaugural film program class, because UCF, they didn't have a Bachelor of Arts until that year, and so they developed this program for film, so you could actually get a film in motion picture technology, not just in communications. So we were there, and it was just 30 of us. They only accepted 30 every year, and it was a lot of a camaraderie. We kind of, as soon as you get there, you kind of start looking at people's films, and you realize who has talent, and who is, who just more advanced, who can write, who can edit,
who's got a camera,
and
who's got stuff, who's got a van,
edited before, you know what I mean? I had already done a feature, and I was way ahead of most people. And Dan had also, he was a little older than me, and he had gone to college and had done that too. So he knew how to edit. And, we were a little group of the most experienced filmmakers, and we just dug each other's films and became friends. And then we did a movie, in the second semester together, and then we, somewhere around 91 or so, that's, we were hanging out, and we came up with the idea for Blair Witch, and the rest is history.
Was the idea to do the found footage style then?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was actually going to interject, because there's a version of the Blair Witch pitch, right? That was like $1 million movie or $100 million, like a studio version of it, right?
Well, no, I don't think we ever had. I mean, because we were in Orlando, and about as far away from the film business as you could get, and we never had that kind of delusions of grandeur. But we had I think the first couple of budgets were a couple $100,000, $300,000 or $400,000.
Yeah. Okay.
Because we wanted to pay ourselves, which is a silly idea. But
you'll work for free until
but so we ended up not raising any money really, and just kind of cobbling it together at the last minute. And
I was gonna say, how'd you pay for it?
Well, there was some credit cards, and then also we got a break from the guy named John Pearson, who was an independent film guru, who his book is called Spike, Mike, Slackers, and Dykes.
I have that book. I read it when I was in
he was somehow involved with early Kevin Smith and Spike Lee and Michael Moore and Richard Linklater. I mean, just crazy. And he somehow got our investor reel, and he loved it, and he thought it was real, and we were like, no, it's not real. He had a show called Split Screen on Bravo, which was kind of a weird show, like a little magazine show. He would have a couple of stories, but some of them were film related, some not. But he did one, and he was like, I want to put the whole investor reel as a segment, in Split Screen. And we were like, sure. So he knew we were going to make the movie. We're asking him, can you give us some money, or can you find some money for us? And he was like, no, I'm not going to invest, but I am going to pay you for 2 episodes. I'm going to pay you this much money to air it at the end of this season. And then when you guys shoot the movie, I want you guys to edit a little 8 or 9 minute video. And then that'll play in the season premiere of the next season. So, it was crazy. Okay. It was a good amount of money.
It's
and we
good
were
promotion
like,
too, right?
And it's good. Yeah, it was incredible promotion because especially that second one, the second one aired in April or something of 98. And we were in the middle of it. We were in the middle of editing the movie. And that's really when the hype began. This was back, in the early days of the internet. So basically the websites were some information, some photos here. There was no videos before YouTube. And then you had these discussion boards, before social media. There was just basically you would form these forums. These forums. And the split screen forum became the Blair Witch forum. It was just Blair Witch. So John was like, hey man, I'm glad you guys are getting so much attention, but you got to make your own site, man. You guys are, the split screen site's becoming the Blair Witch site. And, so I had a little bit of website experience. And so I built the first website and that, we funneled people to that. And that's when really the fans started kind of aggregating, I guess, kind of coming together on the website. And it was really.
Did you build that in Flash?
No, I built it in, no, dude, you crazy. No. It was remember that front page 98 or that Microsoft. That's what I used.
Yeah. Okay.
And then my partner Mike Manello had a little more Mac website experience, more programming, and he helped kind of technically with it.
I was trying to go back and find it. I had heard that you had done the original website for it. I was like, that's a weird little quirk.
That is.
I tried to find it, but I came across, I think, which is probably the next iteration of it, which I think
is the artisan one. Yeah, that's the website that I have is just archived, and now the technology is so weird that I don't even know how we could put it on.
Would it actually go up?
What was the final budget, the actual budget?
I mean,
I know the numbers have been
I mean, you have to take into account that the original idea for a movie was going to be a feature-length documentary about these 3 filmmakers that disappeared, in the woods. And then there was going to be, about half of it was going to be footage, from the woods of their journey. And then half of it was going to be, talking heads and, examining the footage and, forensically going through the audio and finding voices or, stuff like that.
Yeah.
In Search Of, remember that show with In Search Of stuff, that kind of thing. And so there was 2 phases. The first phase was the woods, and that cost around $20,000 to get that in the can.
That's more than I thought.
Yeah. And then a little bit less than 20,000, probably 15 and 20. And then the phase 2 stuff costs probably another 10, maybe not, maybe less than that. But we did, we definitely had to pay actors and, very little, but we paid, we did, paid actors and stuff. And then once Artisan bought it, they redid the sound and, they spent some money on it. So I think in the end, they paid us to go reshoot the ending. Artisan Price spent $200,000 or $300,000, $400,000 maybe on it.
Wow.
All in all.
What'd they buy it for?
They bought it for a little bit over $1 million, and then, pretty good back end.
I mean, was that well, did you think this was it? This was the end all?
I mean, I was 30 years old and just crazy, man. We had made it.
Right.
And then the movie keeps getting bigger and bigger. And then you're then the shadow kind of starts looming over you. And it still looms over me, but it also looms over me in a very great way. It's given me an indie film career, gave me a television career.
Yeah. Which is wild. I mean, whether you like it or not, it's part of the zeitgeist now. You made something that kicked off a whole genre of movies and really became one of the most famous, not even just horror movies. It's a household name. Yeah. Everyone knew it.
It's crazy. It's a lot of times I have to back away and be what the hell happened with this movie?
I did that.
Yeah. And you try, you again, you try not to think about it too much, and now,
Sure. Yeah.
And especially, because it was very collaborative and everybody kind of created it. There's a lot of people that kind of came to make it what it is, but it's, it's amazing that people like you guys are still interested in talking about it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm a horror junkie, and so I've always been interested in.
No, it's great. We do these conventions now, and people pay money for our autographs, which is I always like feel weird about, but
like, what am I doing with this?
Yeah,
it's my signature. There you go.
And you get so much love, man. Like these people come to you,
that
and
part's really cool.
Yeah,
most of them have like a little story, and I love listening to the stories and like how much love they have for this thing that we created. You know what I mean? It's an honor to have that, because most filmmakers don't get that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, are you kidding? My little story was so like you were saying, it was at the dawn of the internet. There really wasn't much publicity for this. And like this was an indie film, so no one could track it. There was no information about it until it was out. Yeah. And I saw something on TV, and I remember going, I want to say I went to the Charles Theater to see it.
In Baltimore.
Yeah, downtown. And I distinctly remember they had the 3 posters out front that, in hindsight, they were movie like promo posters, but they were just the missing posters for those kids at the time. And I am, like I said, I'm a horror junkie, and I'm usually in tune with this stuff, but it was outside of my peripheral, and I was unaware that this was a found footage, a fake documentary. So I really went in thinking,
hook, line, and sinker. You were.
Oh my God. I was caught. Like, you got me.
Yeah, a lot of people.
And I remember at the end of that, it's like, holy shit. I like, what? How did they find this?
Yeah,
that's the scariest closing scene. You said you reshot it.
Yeah, that was the original one, but we reshot it because we did like test screenings, and people were like, "What the hell was this?" Like, the whole movie is like, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah.
The big thing was that like in the test screenings, we would have like discussions about. There's always somebody that kind of leads a kind of a Q&A with like a select group of people, and everybody was like, I want to know this, and I don't understand this, and I don't understand that. And then the guy asked, were any of you guys scared? And pretty much everybody raised their hand. So it was like
mission accomplished.
So, but the studio was like, what the hell is the ending? We want to have something like a more definitive ending. And look, they were right, because like the thing about Blair Witch was that we came up with that ending like a few days before we shot it. So we had no explanation for why Mike was standing in the corner.
Yeah.
So the Sundance version just has Mike in the corner, and there's no explanation as to why or whose house you're in. I mean, you kind of guess that you're in Russ Parr's house if you really pay attention.
Yeah.
So then during my website adventures, I came up with the idea of like, he put one kid in the corner while he killed the other one, because he would kill them 2 by 2. The mythology has changed since then, but it's fine. I like the fact that it kind of changes and stuff. But it was kind of a creepy thing. We were like, man, this guy couldn't take another kid watching him, kill somebody. So when they asked us, can you reshoot the endings? We were like, yeah, well, first it kind of went like this, like, hey, we want you to reshoot the ending, maybe do an alternate, like more, kind of definitive. And then we're like, nah, we really like our ending. And
it's like Jaws. Sure. You don't show the creature,
Yeah. And they were like, well, we'll pay you $50,000-$60,000 to go to Maryland. And we were like, all right, we'll reshoot that fucking ending.
New idea.
So we went to Maryland, and we came here and we shot some alternate endings, which are on the Blu-ray, and they're all kind of bad. We definitely worked. We didn't want to ruin the end of our movie, and we were like, they might make us pick one of these, so let's just try to make them. But they just didn't work. And then, but while we were here on the trip, we were like, hey, why don't we get a couple of people and just interview them and bring in that idea of like Russ and Parr killing the kids, 2 by 2, and making one of them stand in the corner, and so then and that happens early in the movie, and we knew that like most of the people were not going to pay attention to that, but we were like, man, that like 1 in 10 audience member that picks up on that at the beginning and sees that at the end, that's going to be a really horrifying moment. Like, oh my God, like, you're going to know exactly what's happening, but you don't know what's happening,
Right.
So, and luckily, Artisan, I mean, they could have forced us to change the ending, but they let us go with our original ending, and the rest is history. And it is funny because years later, they, when Paranormal Activity was coming out, they had the same publicist as we did. So the publicist was trying to get me and Oren Pelly together and just to kind of help promote. And I was like, well, I'm not getting paid, so I'm not sure how much promotion I'm going to do for this movie, give me
a little back end.
Yeah, I mean, come on. But they sent me the movie, like the first cut of it, and it has a different ending. And it's funny that Paranormal Activity, yeah, has a different ending, the original ending. And I understand why they went with the new ending, but the other ending is like it's like more realistic as to like what would happen, you know what I mean? And it's kind of like it's creepier, I feel. The ending now is more like horror movie ending, and the other one was more like, oh Jesus, that's terrible, But it's just funny, like again, I think it was because they, the studio had no idea what they had, and there was a few people there that really got the movie, and in the marketing department, I think those are the people that led the studio to buy it. And I mean, look, it was an experiment, I mean, even we were like really hesitant.
I mean, you had to be floored.
Well, first of all, we were hesitant to like put any hope into it because all of us had like had hope in movies and been crushed, and
yeah.
We had our heart broken many times before, so we were like,
you had to be holding on to a little something, like you didn't make it.
Absolutely, and absolutely, and also just
optimism,
and also like every time something, like a little bit of validation would come and be like, oh, that's cool, yeah, they really liked it, oh, they did that, whatever. And the ultimate validation obviously was when we got into Sundance, and we were like, all right, now we're like talking about, now we're heading in the, on the right road. But even during the website period, we would, because we were broke, we were completely broke. And I would spend like half the day on the website and then the rest of the day on editing the movie. Dan would edit while I was
tedious time.
While I was working on the website, edit, Dan would edit, and we would just kind of go back and forth and finish them and did the movie that way. But the website was so crazy, and I was like daily kind of being involved with it, trying to come up with new ways to get people there or whatever. But we got so much love from that website, man. And it was like, it really did, like, at least for me, like it really gave me hope.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, these people are like coming to this website like a bunch of times a day, and there's no video, there's just a bunch of stills, and there's no
in a weird
the movies, I haven't seen the movie, they and they love this thing, they love everything we're doing, and every time we put a new still, they're like, oh my god, what is that? And
it's like test marketing, like the concept at a time when you could do it, where you could actually like sort of seed it and start to see like the feedback before you've even done anything.
No, it was totally like just fan based. And and we went to Sundance, we had like, and the number is like pitifully low now, but we had 10,000 people on our mailing list, which back then was like, that was a pretty big mailing for a website that we never marketed. We never paid for any kind of marketing on AOL or Yahoo or anything. It was just Prodigy. But but again, people like that didn't live through it. Like there was no YouTube, there was no Facebook, there was no MySpace, you couldn't even do video on the web. Like that was, you'd send these little video files that were like 2 megabytes, and they would take a whole night to download. You know what I mean?
How was the reception at Sundance?
The reception was crazy. That's another thing where we were like, holy crap, what's happening here? But all the showings sold out immediately. They added another show that sold out.
Midnight slot, right?
Yeah. It was definitely like the hypiest movie of the festival that year. There's a couple of others that were kind of, there was one called Happy Texas.
I vaguely remember that.
Yeah, it was supposed to be like the darling or whatever. And I think Miramax paid like $10 million for it or something. Yeah, but
that guy checked a lot of boxes.
Exactly,
I hope he did. I hope he did.
Yeah, to a certain extent. But we were, again, we were like the underdog. So like any kind of success, was going to be.
That's a great position to be in too.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And assuming you're nice guys too.
Yeah, no, we were good. It was a good group of people, and we sold. When we sold it after the first screening, that was like, at least you're done. There's no thinking of like, oh my God, we're going to sell it. There's not that. The stress is gone. Yeah. Once you sell it, you're like, all right, well, we did what we came here to do. Now let's just hang out. And
what was the window of time for that? Was that like that day?
It was immediate. It was like we showed it on, at midnight on Friday. And then by like 6 a.m. in the morning or 7 a.m., we had a deal.
Like, what took you guys so long? I've been sitting here waiting around.
I know, man. I was like, what the hell's going on?
Wow, I didn't know that it happened like that. That's crazy.
Yeah, no, and it's crazy because people are like, oh my God, all these other companies missed out. And I'm like, I don't know if we would have gotten any other offers for real, because like it was such a weird movie. You know what I mean? And I remember like,
could anyone else have done anything better with it?
Yeah.
No. I mean, that's the thing about Blair Witch, man, is that, I mean, eventually, like once the money starts coming in, people change, and like especially the distributor changes, and there's like a bunch of, it's just a different thing when the money starts flowing in, unfortunately. But like everything that happened on Blair Witch was like perfectly aligned with what we needed to happen on Blair Witch. Because we knew Mark Ordesky is a good friend of ours, and he was kind of like the acquisitions guy at New Line during that time. And he saw Blair Witch and whatever, but even New Line, I don't think any company would have done as good a job as Artisan, because Artisan was like, they had money behind them, but they hadn't had any success, like big success. They had like done a couple of, like the year before they released Pi.
Oh, yeah.
And we were really impressed. We're like, man, that's a black and white movie about math.
Right. Love it.
And it made like $3 million. So we were like, these guys could do a good job with Blair Witch. So we did our homework on them, and they were our favorite. And they came in, and they were
willing to take a big swing.
Yeah. There was this guy named John Hageman, who was the head of marketing. And I think he's the one that pushed them to buy the movie. And he just knew right away that this was something special, and was like, and he knew how to market it.
So cool to find somebody that sees what you see.
Oh, great. And luckily they collab, they asked us for input, and there's a documentary called Curse of the Blair Witch that came out a couple of weeks before the movie was released on Sci-Fi.
I feel like I saw that.
Yeah, it's on the DVD. It's like,
I mean, I feel like I saw it like on TV.
Yeah, it was on the Sci-Fi channel. And it was, and they came to us a couple of months before, and they were like, we got an hour on the Sci-Fi channel. Is there anything you guys can? We were like, yeah, man, we got all this footage of like, newsreels and all that stuff that we didn't use in the movie that we cut out of the movie at the last minute. So yeah, we could do that. So we wrote and directed and edited, Curse of the Blair Witch, and they paid us for that. And they would send us all the trailers, and they would, kind of step by step, they let us be involved. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the movie started making a ton of money, and then the communication started breaking. They said,
down. Get the hell out of here. We've got this.
Right.
Yeah. No, and not really from the marketing part, but just like from the rest of the, a little bit of radio silence. And, again, money. And Blair Witch changed the Artisan. Like,
I'm sure
they were, they could have been the next Miramax, like back when Miramax, was really cooking, but I don't know, they went from like making $10 million for the previous year to like hundreds of millions of dollars with Blair and the theatrical and the video release. And, of course that's going to change the goals of the company. You know what I mean? So
sure. It's like a rocket for them too,
but it was perfect at the time, man. It was perfect. And like, I remember Darren Aronofsky he was making his movie Requiem for a Dream, and they were doing the second Blair Witch movie, and he called me up. He's like, man, they're like ignoring my movie, and they become the Blair Witch Company. And we had talked at Cannes before the movie came out, and he told me that, man, they're going to rip you off, and just kind of the same basic filmmaker warnings that we give, like, oh, the distributor's going to rip you off. That's just the way it is, unfortunately. But he was angry because, whatever. But so, they had Darren Aronofsky's next movie, Requiem from a Dream, which was also, become a classic. Big, and they had Steven Soderbergh's movie after his big success, and Robert Altman, Jim Jarmusch. Like, they had a lot of really like pretty cool filmmakers that were making movies there. But after Blair Witch,
everything went that way.
Totally honed in on Blair Witch, and that was the way they were going to, they were going to do another movie. They were going to be a big franchise, and they were going to, sell the company. And so, unfortunately, the business side of show business took over. Right.
Yeah. All the non-creative decisions were.
Yeah. And, it's always there's always a balancing act. You know what I mean? Like, it is show business, but again, like when either the show or the business takes over too much, it starts to, things start to get crazy. Like, sometimes you see movies, you're like, how the hell did the studio let this person make this, keep going and spend money?
Too many hands in the pot, and it's,
whatever it is. Sometimes the show takes over the business side. But unfortunately, it's usually the other way around.
Yeah. So what happened then? You're riding high. I assume that you're getting a lot of offers.
We got a lot of offers. We got a lot of scripts sent to us. Like, basically any unproduced horror script. Yeah. Of the last 5 years, they sent to us.
Anything good?
So there's two movies that I think were most recognizable. There was one that we got offered the prequel to The Exorcist, which is Exorcist. It was Dan and my like probably favorite horror movie, and
it's one of the few that scared me.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, it terrified me. And
it's the story of the priest in the seminary, and Bye.
Yeah. The prequel, yeah. And we read the script and we were like, we'd love to do it. We love The Exorcist, but you got to give us a couple of months to rewrite the script.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, man, we're already on location. We need you like in Morocco or whatever in 4 weeks. We're like,
oh.
And so, it was smart of us. I mean, that was a movie that they made twice and it kind of failed twice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was just I don't know, just didn't get it, man. It's just, I mean, Exorcist is hard. It's hard to like, you guys see the new one?
Yeah, I did.
I mean, it's hard to catch some of that, but it's hard to do the William Friedkin, 70s thing, man. It's very difficult to do that. But anyway, we got offered that and we had to turn it down, of course. And then I wanted to do it, and for some reason it didn't work out. But remember that movie Joyride with
Oh yeah, sure.
Yep.
Steve Zahn and
that was a fun one.
The guy from Fast and the Furious, right?
Yeah, Paul Walker.
Anyway, Paul Walker. And written by J.J. Abrams, one of his early scripts. I mean, I would have, I could have been in the J.J. Abrams world and stuff. But it was like, the thing that happened, there was a paralysis after Blair Witch, actually, at least for me, and I think Dan as well. But you have to ask him.
Right.
But where like the pressure of, like how do you follow up Blair Witch Project?
How do you beat the sophomore slump?
Yeah, and and again, I was 30 years old, and then 31, and I'm like, and also. Dan and I were not horror guys. Like we had like comedy scripts, we had drama scripts. We were not horror guys. Like, we did Blair Witch because it was the best idea we had for the cheapest amount of money that we could shoot it. But if somebody had come to us before Blair Witch and said, "Hey, we'll give you $500,000," we would not have made Blair Witch. We would have made something else.
Wow.
So him and I were kind of like tied together. And I think part of it was that we were scared. At least I was scared to kind of move away from the protection of having, somebody else responsible for shit. But our relationship started again, not the money. It wasn't the money, but it was just like the pressure of like, who's the talented one?
Sure.
That was the big thing for me. And we would always talk about that. Like we always had this thing where like, who's the Ringo of the group? You know what I mean? Not that, I love Ringo and he's, his drumming is amazing. Right. Like
super talented.
The older I get, the more.
But he's not the first one you pick out.
No, it's not. When you have a band with those other three guys, especially the two guys, Lennon McCartney, you're like, it's a tough competition there. So there was always this like, who's the Ringo of the group? And, and sometimes I'd feel like the Ringo and sometimes he would feel like the Ringo. But then after the movie succeeded, I think the Ringo thing really kicked in. And also, Hollywood is brutal, man. Like I remember one of our agents, who's not our agent anymore, was like, we were sitting at this like I remember exactly, we're sitting at this little diner. I don't know what it was like. We're getting coffee or something. We're just sitting around in San Francisco. They took us on this trip to San Francisco to, I don't know what the hell it was. I don't even know what the hell we did there. But the one guy was like, guys, I still can't figure out which one of you guys is the talented one.
And you both raised your hand.
Please don't feed into that.
I mean, you're like, first of all, how do you answer that? And then also, how do you not dwell on that?
Let it hang on you.
Yeah. So I would have done Joyride. I would have definitely. It was called Squelch.
Ugh.
Weird.
Oh, okay.
Because of the CB kind of action throughout it. But I loved it. It was like it was kind of a duel. You could tell that the writers were definitely like still Spielberg fans, and I was a huge Spielberg. So I was like, I'd love to do this. But Dan and I were kind of stuck with this movie called Heart of Love, which was supposed to be our comedy, and this really stupid comedy with a stupid name. And it was just like, we were having so much fun with it. But again, him and I were like, because he even got some, he had this script or this idea called Tomorrow Man that like New Line was trying to, bring him in to the fold and trying to buy it from him. And looking back on it, we should have, hindsight, obviously, we should have just separated. We should have said, hey,
let's take a break.
Let's make the next movies separately, pick whatever, we each want to do, and then just go out and do it and just see what it is. And we got so many crazy offers, like I look back on it, I'm like, wow, why didn't we do that? But
that's life
again,
though, it's like, you're always going to,
that's life, man. And I always tell people, I'm like, we had the potential of becoming like juggernauts. I mean, not talent wise. I mean, I think we're all talented, but I don't think any of us is like, Steven Spielberg talent, that kind of level. But we could have gotten into producing, like they offered us, producing other horror movies and this and that. And we were just kind of like, nah, we were immature and we were young and we didn't have the right kind of mentors, Hollywood mentors, and I wish somebody would have like guided us and said, yeah, you should take this deal and you should do this and you should do that. But I mean, again, we could, not that I would have been the next JJ Abrams, but we could have been up there. But again, what would have happened? Like maybe I would have ended up, under a bridge, dying under a bridge of an overdose, or who knows? I would have had to move to LA and
caught up in the lifestyle. All of a sudden, now you're so Hollywood, and
it's tempting, like especially right after Blair Witch, like people recognize you on the street, and you're like, "Fuck, man, I'm the man." And you start thinking that, and that's it happens in LA a lot, man. You start believing your own hype, and
especially at 30,
you go downhill from there.
Right?
At 30 years old, dude. I mean, it was a crazy time. I mean, really exciting, but also like very perilous. So many landmines that we were kind of like trying not to step on.
Right. But did you keep writing?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote early in my career, but I'm not. And I think I'm a good writer, but it takes me a long time to develop the story. And now I've worked with real writers who like can write a script in like 3 days, and that's actually a good script.
Crazy.
So I'm like, nah, I'm not really a writer, but yeah, I kept writing. I kept like there was an executive from New Line that kept coming to Orlando to visit with us and become kind of our friend. And there was people courting us, you know what I mean? Everybody wanted to follow up and this and that.
Yeah.
But no, man, I mean, I think it was just, again, like there was a paralysis and also the paralysis was also because of that. We had made some money, we had made some pretty decent money from the movie.
Yeah.
And most independent filmmakers don't make crap from their first movie and they cash in on the second movie.
Yeah.
So we didn't have to cash in, we had already cashed in. So you're kind of like, again,
you don't have to take the first thing that comes along.
Yeah. I'm like 30 years old, 31. I never had a decent car in my life. I've never had a house. I've never had like any kind of income security, any kind of, financial security. And all of a sudden I have, a lot of money in the bank and I'm able to like get back with my girlfriend and make plans for getting married and like, kind of do the things that people my age were already doing. A lot of people were already married, already living together and, owning a house, so there was a lot of catching up to do. And I think that's another thing. I think we should have like taken a little time off and then come back and said, all right, let's just do our own movies and then under the Hacks and under the production company banner and let's just see what happens. But, it was, again, we were young and stupid and, and like you were saying, man, life is life, dude. Again, I am very fortunate to be in the position that I'm at. I feel very blessed and very lucky. So, I can complain about the past, but at the end, it's like, I'm here. I'm very happy.
Yeah,
and
you still get calls. You still get to go on.
You're still working. You still have you have a body of work that's great that you're proud of.
I still work. I still meet people. I'm working with like I'm about to do a show with David Schwimmer. I mean, come on.
Wow.
That's cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah, dude, I was so excited, man. When they cast him, I was like, oh my God, I get to work with David Schwimmer. And, because, I grew up with friends, man. Yeah. And he, he seems like a decent guy. I've heard like that he's a good guy, whatever. But on Yellow Jackets, Christina Ricci and fucking, Juliette Lewis and, Melanie Linsky. I mean, I'm saying like, it's just like, I've worked like on the last show I worked with Bruce Campbell. Like, dude, it's like.
Love it. Evil Dead 2 is still my favorite. One of my favorites.
Oh my God.
The greatest.
I took a picture with him because one of the producers kind of forced the issue because I rarely take pictures with people. But like I was so ready to geek out on Evil Dead 2 with him. But he was, he's Bruce. Yeah. He kind of goes in, does his job. He really liked me. We got along because I was quick. He doesn't like doing a lot of takes and he doesn't like wasting time. And, I understand he's, he doesn't want to waste time. I completely get it, but, it's just, I directed a Star Trek episode.
Oh, I saw that.
Like, it's just kind of like, I never expected any of this stuff, to happen and including Blair Witch. Yeah. So it's like, I feel like I'm way ahead of the curve and
sure. They're all cool opportunities.
I'm grateful for where I'm at.
What about Star Wars thing? Have you come close to that? I mean, or would that be like too close to your fandom?
No, dude. I would love to do a Star Wars up. I would love to.
I just feel like so many legs to that franchise now that there would be more opportunity.
Yeah. The thing about especially after Yellow Jackets, like my kind of TV directing thing kind of like went to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
And
it was more of a prestige show.
yeah,
It's also
because
hot
it was
at the
like a
moment.
big show and it was a big finale, and
Yeah.
and it was, the episode turned out really good, and I already had a meeting, had a meeting with Lucasfilm and this and that. And then that's where I got my Star Trek job, and I've gotten, you get a lot of heat, and it's great, man. It's I'm still kind of living on that heat, know. But the way that the Star Wars was explained to me is that it's very much like they're all like little fiefdoms, So like the Mandalorian and Boba Fett are like Jon Favreau.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not in that circle, it's going to be hard to
they're not
get
reaching,
in there.
They're not recruiting people either.
No, then the studio, usually the studio on these shows has some say, like they're like, hey, we really want to work, we want you to bring this director in. And also the episodes are so limited, like there hasn't even been like 50 or 60 episodes of Star Wars, yet. And I'm saying, like, it's still under 100
That's
episodes.
true. There's a ton of different shows, but they're actually short run.
They're just really short runs. So that but Robert Rodriguez did Boba Fett, and he would send me fucking texts from the set.
Son of a bitch.
But he was like, dude, it's just like playing with the toys when you were a little kid, but they're all big toys.
Like, I know.
They're all full-size toys.
I can imagine.
No, I would love to. And also, and I think that the guy at Lucasfilm was like, you have a better chance of actually pitching us a Star Wars show than right now than you have
one of the ones that's there.
Of cracking one of the because again, in the Andor ones, there's an English kind of clique, in the UK where they're doing those shows. I mean, I would love to do a Star Wars episode, and I think eventually I'll get there. But it's it definitely. I mean, I the closest I got to Star Wars was I directed this promotional video for Star Tours.
Oh yeah, sure.
When Star Tours did the revamping for the the new movies. I had a friend at Disney, and he was like, hey, you want to come in and direct these promos? And you can,
I do.
Hell yeah. So I went and directed the promos, and I got to work. I got to work with somebody in the C-3PO costume and R2-D2, Chewbacca, right. And I was actually on the in the Star Tours ride when nobody was there, and
fun.
Again, man, it's like it was so cool. It was I thought it was as close to Star Wars as those.
Paid to like geek out in your childhood dream.
Yeah, because this was before the TV stuff, so it was like, but it was cool, man. I mean, and again, like I'm still a fan, and I still watch all the shows, and as you can see, I still buy crap, and
so funny over your shoulder. It's like Jabba the Hutt, I think, in the background, but there's like there's a Star Destroyer like over top of him, and so it kind of makes this lamp look. It looks like Jabba.
Yeah. It looks like a lamp.
Yeah, I can see it.
No, dude, I have, and I'm selling some of it now. Like it's all those. I have a storage room that's like filled almost all the way to the wall, all to the ceilings, and
I can't even picture what my wife would say.
Taking stuff out and just putting stuff on eBay. And no, dude, my wife is cool, man. As long as I don't take it upstairs, like
keep it in your space.
Anywhere where she has to see it on a regular basis.
Keep it in the basement.
Gotcha.
Yeah, keep it in the basement.
That's great.
Your career has fueled that.
My childhood dreams have all come true.
I love that.
I'm very lucky.
Well, I hope you get to Star Wars sooner rather than later.
Seriously.
Yes, it would be nice, man. It would be nice. But and that's like, it would be cool to have our own show, of course, but I think we're a little while from that too. Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, I feel like we've kept you long enough. We usually like to wrap up with one question, which is where do you call home? Because I mean, you're originally from Cuba, right?
When did you come from Cuba? How old were you?
I left Cuba when I was around 2, so I don't remember any of Cuba, but we went to Spain. So my first memories are Spain and Madrid and
in between. So you went Cuba to Spain to
I went to Spain because you weren't really allowed to go from Cuba to the US.
That's
so you had to like go, it was a whole process of getting on a list, and luckily we had relatives that had already left, so they kind of petitioned us, and it was crazy.
So would you really call Frederick your home? I mean, it sounds like you aren't that connected to Orlando.
Frederick. I mean, I grew up in Montgomery County and in Tacoma Park. I ended up there when I was around 5 or 6. And then have been here, longer than I was in Montgomery County. So, or almost as long as I have. But I love, I love Old Town. The fact that you're
Mm-hmm.
The area is just, the Civil War stuff. There's so much history, and the town is cool. You're also like an hour away from like two big cities that are very different from each other.
Well, so before you go on, the rest of that question is, say someone is coming out to see you from LA who hasn't been there.
Mhm.
You've got them for an afternoon and they want to see a good time. What is the Ed Sanchez tour?
Depending on who they are, I
like the real deal.
I'll let maybe I'll hang out with them during the day, and then at night I'll hand them off to my early 20s kids to go down and hang out.
Right.
I mean, there's a restaurant right near me called Mangia Bevi, which is like an Italian restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
That's my go-to place. It's been around for like probably 15 years now. We were like one of the original customers. Like we were there the first day.
Oh, cool.
We knew some people that owned it, and so we go there every couple. I mean, at least probably once a week, maybe a couple.
That's great.
I'd take them there, and then I would go downtown, and depending on what their interests are, we could go to Monocacy Battlefield, we could go, to Harper's Ferry.
Okay.
If they're not interested in that, just go downtown to maybe Tasting Room or one of the really good restaurants down there. But also, even like depending on what they're in the mood for, like there's a place called Sardi's Peruvian Chicken on in Frederick on the Golden Mile. Like,
now you're speaking my language.
It's like in this strip mall. Dude, there's a couple of Sardi's. There's Gaithersburg. I don't know if there's any in Baltimore.
Sounds familiar.
Sardis. Dude, if you find a Sardi's in this area, you do yourself a favor and get. My wife and I eat there twice a week. Like, they know us. They know our order.
So 2 nights a week there, 1 night a week.
two lunches. Yeah. But so basically the whole thing would revolve around, eating food.
That's what it's all about.
That's the way it is.
Good with that.
But maybe, if the Orioles are playing, maybe an Orioles game. Or exactly, or go into DC if they want to see some museums or air and space, or just the ones that you don't need reservations for. I mean, look, dude, the beauty of this area is there's so much to do. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a melting pot. There's so much diversity in this area, which you go to other places in the United States and you realize like how lucky we are.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean. My wife and I now we have 3 kids, and 2 of them are in college, and the other one's 14.
Okay,
and we're we're like toying with the idea. We're definitely gonna have to move eventually, because this house is a little, was going to be a little too big once the kids are all gone.
Run out of room with all your Star Wars stuff.
Doesn't it just allow more space?
I'm starting to bring the Star Wars stuff upstairs, take over the second level. But we're thinking of moving maybe, and one of the fantasies is like to move west, like to near San Francisco, Northern California or something. But we're pretty comfortable here, man. I love the area, and I'm kind of like a local celebrity, so whenever I can get things done here.
Big fish in a little pond.
I'm a big fish in a little pond, and it's like there's and it's also a great place to shoot, man.
That's
honestly,
like we do drive around like, oh my god, we could be here, we could be there, we could.
Yeah. And also, what I love about this area, especially Frederick, is that like you can go and go towards Target, and you can have the Walmart and Home Depot and the mall, and you can go downtown, and it's it's great little town with history. George Washington, all these little stories, and a lot of the buildings are still there. It's a great place, the whole area. But also, you can like I can make a left or a right out of my development and go that way, go towards Frederick, or I can make a left and basically I'm like mostly in farm country, So I like to sometimes like just take, drives at night to just, play like I have this music mix called the Creepy Mix. And it's all just like horror, like really fucked up horror tracks. And
driving by yourself
I've come up with my best horror ideas on those drives. Cool. And I kind of get lost, and then when I'm ready to go home, I just hit the GPS and it takes me home. It's just really cool,
Yeah.
I feel like that's like a weird Matthew McConaughey like Lincoln commercial, one of those things where it's like this terrible horror movie, and then it's like then the GPS
but at night it's all foggy and raining, and it's crazy. I get attacked by these rednecks, and
No.
Again, it's a great place to live, and the schools are really good here, and my kids have gotten a pretty decent education.
Awesome. Yeah.
So yeah, it's in Maryland in general, man. I love to shoot here. Like I've only shot, professionally, I've only shot 3 things here, and they were all, turned out pretty good. So I'd like to do more of it. And the big goal is to bring a TV show to Maryland.
That'd be wild.
That would be nice.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
Yeah, it'd be fun, man.
Cool. Well,
a lot of talent in the area, man. A lot of talent.
Yeah, I'm just starting to tap into that. A lot of through this, talking to people that I didn't recognize was all around us.
Yeah. No, and especially, just a lot of good filmmakers and actors, and there's a good little pool here, of people that know what they're doing. So
yeah, it's great. All right. We will let you go. We've been here for a while. This is a delight.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Good luck with the next thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me know. I'll come back. Tell more stupid stories.
Would love it.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Ed.
See you guys.
Take care.
Thanks.
Bye. Thank you.